I'm going to stop you right there because
Okay.
what I do want to say is, and we do want to get into your vision, but I think people would be interested. You and I had a discussion about crime in Walnut Creek as compared to other cities. Could you just tell us a little bit? Let the citizens want to know where does Walnut Creek stand with respect to crime and the numbers of different kinds of crime?
Sure. That's a great question. And, it's hard. We live by comparing data, right? Where do we stand with other cities in the region? So I would classify Walnut Creek's crime rate as relatively low. It's not like super low. There's, for example, city like Rockland and Placer County, there's not nearly as much daytime traffic as you would get in Walnut Creek. Their crime rate is usually hovers in the low 20s per thousand. So 20 crimes per 1,000 residents. In Walnut Creek, it's a little above 30. So it's a little bit more than that, but I would still consider that a relatively low crime rate. In the grand scheme of things, if you look at the Bay Area, the problem that we have in Walnut Creek is not only do we have a major public transit that comes through the city with BART especially, but you have 2 freeways. You also have a huge draw for shoppers with all of the retail here, and of course the nightlife with all the nightlife with all the restaurants and that. So that's also a big draw. So that can sometimes impact your crime rate. But when I look at crime rate and compare it to like cities, I try to do it, a little bit more broader, but within the region. So we really want to look at crime rates compared to similar sized cities in similar counties situated maybe the same distance away from a metropolitan city like Oakland that we are. So I would say how we compare is very well. We do have a low crime rate. It's not as low as it could be. My goal would be to get it lower, but crime sort of ebbs and flows, and we also become a victim, for lack of a better term, of regional crime trends. So when crime is up in Oakland or San Leandro or Concord, usually it's up for us as well. When there's an uptick in crime, whether it's property crime, specific to catalytic converter theft or organized retail theft, usually it's a more regional trend. It's not specific to one city over another. So we also approach not just tackling crime from a local perspective, but also from a much broader regional perspective so that we could collaborate with our regional partners to be more effective.
All right. And could you just describe for our audience a little bit of, we call them property, quality of life crimes as opposed to, say, type 1 significant crimes, how Walnut Creek kind of stands within that ballpark?
Well, yeah, I think quality of life is different for everyone because sometimes it's not even really crime. Sometimes quality of life is more municipal codes, more municipal infraction type crimes. A lot of the quality of life stuff that we have here is related to noise complaints. Sometimes it's issues in the park with either homeless or people having dogs off leash. A lot of noise complaints about some of the downtown noise with a few of the bars that are in town, especially on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights when there's loud music. But what my quality of life concern is might be different from what someone else's concern is. Sometimes people will call us for help because they have a neighbor who's not keeping up their property. Maybe they have broken down cars out in front. So it's a very broad spectrum of issues. But we try to, we always answer that phone. We always answer the call. And if we don't have the answer, we can't fix the issue, then we work with our other city partners to, bring some resolve to that situation. But if there's a specific crime you're interested as far as quality of life goes, I'd be certainly able to answer those questions if you had something specific in mind.
Well, I think I'll get into that just a little bit later. I think people oftentimes consider minor misdemeanors, and a citizen whose car is broken into doesn't think of it as a minor misdemeanor, but the law does see it as a minor misdemeanor. Petty theft, some of these kinds of things that I think as a former prosecutor, I used to tell people there are way more crimes of that nature than the major rape, robbery, murder, assault kind of crimes. But those impact people. And I think in Walnut Creek right now, we're very much feeling, particularly downtown, those kinds of crimes out in the neighborhood, things that aren't just annoying, but are clearly crimes. But
yeah, let me put this into perspective for you. So as far as violent crime goes, in a year, Walnut Creek will have, and these are just sheer numbers now, in 1 year, we will have anywhere from 100 to 120 violent crimes. That's low. Property crime is a little different. We will have over 2,000 in a year. So there's a stark difference in the types of crime that we have in Walnut Creek. But everybody's perception of what is violent crime or what is a scary crime to them is also somewhat subjective. It's different. But in the grand scheme of things, our violent crime is relatively low, very low, I would say. But it's our property crime that really sets our crime rate up to that low to low moderate. I'd like it to be very low, and that's something that we can have an impact on is property crime. You can have less of an impact as a police agency against violent crime because oftentimes it's spontaneous, they're crimes of passion. So that's what we're really focused on right now is how do we bring that property crime down? Okay.
Now I want to go back a little bit. You had talked about that, your plan is to bring the crime rate down if you can. So I'll jump into that one question that I mentioned, and that is kind of your vision for the police department in Walnut Creek and how you see, and that's not only recruiting officers, but retaining officers and then working out on the street, interacting with citizens.
Yeah, I would need like a 500 words to actually have the vision that I would really want, because just like you said, it's not just crime rate, it's not just quality of life, it's everything. It's building an inclusive culture at the police department. It's I want people to feel safe coming to Walnut Creek. I want people to be able to walk downtown and feel comfortable with that. I mean, I had one of our county police chiefs who 12-year-old son told him, "Dad, I don't feel safe walking in downtown Walnut Creek anymore." And most of that is really coming from media and the attention that we get. And believe me, we've had national attention and even yesterday, some national media outlets wanted to interview me and ask questions about what we're doing in Walnut Creek. But, right now my focus is on actually bringing that crime down and making people feel safer and having an impact, especially in our downtown area. But yeah, I have multiple visions, I guess, but I think the number one vision would be to create a safe environment for all of our residents and the people who visit here. And the feeling of safety is such an interesting challenge because everybody has their own feeling of safety. But I don't like hearing that people don't feel safe coming to Walnut Creek, because I believe it's a very safe city. But of course, I'll say that, and somebody else might say, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't think it's safe at all because just look in the news or look at what happened at Nordstrom." So we oftentimes get judged by what's most visible and what has the most attention brought to it. But if you look at the numbers and you look at how much traffic is in and out of this city, it's a very safe city to live and work and play in.
We see in departments all over, we've heard it nationally, and certainly the media talks about it, and that is officers are leaving agencies, not just leaving agencies, but actually leaving the profession. And can you tell us how, I know you're pretty new here in Walnut Creek, but the impact of people leaving, and then that would jump into what kind of officers are you looking for to recruit to Walnut Creek?
Yeah, so recruiting and retention, it's two separate things. Recruiting right now is probably harder than it's ever been, just because of the national narrative of policing. Some of that narrative, I think, was justified, and there certainly needed to be some reforms in the criminal justice system as a whole. But My challenge is a lot of, there's 18,000 police agencies, law enforcement agencies in this country, 18,000 agencies. There's really no oversight. There's no federal standards for these agencies. So they oftentimes operate with their own set of rules. And I'm talking about different states as well. It is different. You know, I've been to training, you know, all over the country, including the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, where, you know, you have people from everywhere, not just over the country, but also outside of the country, you know, 20 to 25 classmates who are foreign students. And it's shocking how different policing is in some of these other states compared to California. California, I believe, is still sort of a beacon and the gold standard of what being a police officer is. So we get judged with a, you know, or painted with a broad brush, you know, just because an officer makes a mistake or does something stupid or abhorrent, you know, and, you know, the East Coast or down in the South or in the Midwest somewhere that's, or even, you know, somewhere else in California. As a society, we see the word police and we judge all police based on that one incident. So that's really what's happened more so over the last 10 years than not, because of the advent of, you know, social media and smartphones. And so it's certainly exposed some of the ugliness of policing. And I think there's some good that became of that. But the fallout from it is it's a very unattractive profession for people. And sometimes we have to be careful about people who are a little too gung-ho to become a police officer, because we try to find out what their true motive is. I really look for people who want to serve and put the needs of others before themselves, and who want to be a police officer for the right reason. I don't want people who are power hungry. I want people who will respect the position, the authority, and the public trust. So it's a balancing act right now. You know, this is in the age of the Great Resignation. It is difficult to recruit people, but the nice thing about Walnut Creek is it is a nice place to work in, and we have a very supportive city, and our community is extremely supportive of our police department, where in other communities it's not like that at all. So you know, we try to leverage the relationships that we've built with you folks and our community members to help sell Walnut Creek, if you will, for lack of a better term, to would-be recruits. And so right now I'm trying to cast you know, as broad of a net as I can, and not look just for lateral officers who might come here from another agency, which we've gotten very lucky. I think all but 2 officers, I think I've hired about 6 officers since I've been here, have been laterals, which is unheard of, really. And that's a testament to Walnut Creek. Now more than ever, it's very uncomfortable to leave a position where you have seniority and you've been a cop for, let's say, you know, 2 to 10 years, to go start all over, to lose all that seniority, to lose all that vacation time, and hope that there's no financial crisis where that city has to doesn't have to start laying people off. So it's a scary thing, but the fact that we're getting more and more laterals is a testament to the city and the culture that we have in Walnut Creek. But we're also looking at you know, people that we can send to the police academy, because I think we tap into a much younger demographic. We can tap into even more diversity that way, and also grow people the way that we want them to police in Walnut Creek. They're not bringing any baggage with them. They're not bringing any bad habits or any policing philosophy for another city where we have to retrain them. Okay, that might be great for that city, but this community needs this. So I think that adds to diversity. So if we can recruit as many different people, from whether it's laterals or entry level, or people who have put themselves through the police academy, that's my goal right now. But we will never sacrifice, you know, quality or standards. We'll never compromise on our standards. We only want the best here in Walnut Creek, because, you know, that's what we deserve.